exchange with Penelope Cruz explaining to all of you about what peri and menopause are for women. And I'm just so impressed and delighted with this because it's something that half of the population goes through, and it is so much more extensive than just hot flashes. And it's not a joke. Like, I mean, it's funny, obviously, but it's just, talk to us about shooting that scene.
That is a great example of how these actors personalized this material. And we basically approached this film as an experiment where we committed to 6 weeks together, where we spent 2 weeks workshopping the material with our screenwriters, with Rashida Jones and Will McCormick, and we six tore it to pieces and infused so much of our own DNA into the piece, and then shot the film in order, conceptualizing things as we felt them, as we went along. So the workshopping continued between all of us as we went. And that scene is an example of Penelope Cruz feeling very passionately about the need to have this conversation in the movie. And she brought so much knowledge. She and Rashida both had this real dedication to telling this story. And I learned so much from them. And it was wonderful because I felt their passion in everything, but Penelope in that scene, she just felt that she just needed to communicate it, and she put it into this character. And when she picked up those olives, I had no idea, and I was in the scene just like, wow. And then she squeezed them, and one of them fully exploded into my eye. And I was like, just keep going. But that's an example of the kind of genius ideas these actors brought to the film every day.
That's amazing. And I do really want to talk a little bit more about like the rehearsal process, because you have such an amazing all-star cast here. And I'm so curious because obviously the script is amazing. Like the dialogue, we've mentioned Rashida and Will a few times, it's so fresh and lived in. One of my favorite lines in it is that we love a contentious environment. I also particularly love the inclusion of the below the deck preference sheet, because if you know, you know. But, you know, the script is only the building block. It's the beginning of it. And so, I mean, you just shared a little bit about the rehearsal process, but maybe tell us a little bit about the casting process, and then also how you said that you became a brain trust, but like, how did you really build the trust and the energy that you were seeking? Because it's so rapid fire. Like, was there improv at all? How did you open that up?
Yeah, well, so the workshopping process was intense and so exciting because everyone's ideas were valid, and we were debating, and Esther Perel is our consultant on this film, and yes, as you may have been able to tell, and Esther was like our fairy godmother, and the six of us would sit around the table on a soundstage, by the way, where they shot the pilot for I Love Lucy, which I felt was really meaningful, but we were sitting there just arguing over like gender politics, and then we'd go and get like Esther on the phone and be like, what do you think? We're arguing! And then put that into the film. It was so exciting. And then as we started filming, so much just kind of revealed itself to us, and we developed this incredible rhythm together. It was like a jazz quartet. It was suddenly, we just found this rhythm that we could just fall into together. And Seth and I had worked together before, and we knew we had this kind of weird ability to harmonize with each other. Like, we like to say that we can talk over each other while listening to each other, and we really enjoy arguing, and it was so fun. We loved to argue and scream in each other's faces, and he couldn't be a nicer person, so the irony of it is great, but the improvisation came out of a very intense period of working with our screenwriter. So it was like we built such a strong kind of scaffolding together, and there was so much great material that they had put in there. There was so much great material that was based on the original play that was then the film. And lines like, we love a contentious environment, that's a line from the original film. And Edward was so passionate about that line, and he lands it so perfectly. So it was a real mixture. We were responding to each other. We were also really trying to stay true to the original intention of both the original and also Will and Rashida's screenplay.
And then maybe also a little bit of play that was incorporated as you were going, because some of those lines just feel like they're flying fresh out of your mouth.
Yes. I mean, my favorite improvised line is next time you're in there, count the rings.
Yes.
Which
that felt, some of it just was like, oh, that feels like Seth.
Yeah. There's a few times that I fully break on camera, but we had to leave it in because I left us no choice. I wrote the tape.
It's so great though, like, because it does feel like, speaking of modalities in the film, like it feels like both Edward and Penelope and Seth are also kind of working against their modalities here. Like, Penelope is so passionate and sexual and beautiful, my God, and she squeezes those olives, but she's also very steely and incredibly intellectual, and she's holding, like, she's the one that everything kind of moves around.
Yeah.
Your performance is off the hook. It's just like, you're moving so quick, you're processing so many emotions, you're holding all the space, and then you're also behind the camera. And like, you know, Edward Norton's kind of playing against type here with Hawk, and we all know these people in our lives in some way, and then Seth is really embracing. I sat next to my husband during this screening, and he unfortunately empathized too much with some of the dynamics at play. But like, we all kind of know some of these people, and I just gave away a lot about my life. We all kind of know these people, and it's about being seen and about not losing touch with ourselves. And like, I just think that's so brave. And so like, that is probably part of the source material, but you brought it into modern day.
Yes. And I like to say that we are all each of them. I mean, I'm really Joe. The idea of being ambushed by a social situation is my true idea of hell. And like a dinner party I don't want, and then being forced to interact with strangers in that kind of dynamic. I loved, we were kind of filming it like a thriller, because to me it was a real nightmare scenario. And it was so fun to empathize with each of them. And I mean, boy, did they bring just so much specificity to it, so much. I mean, Penelope coming up with all that business, she just like would bring her physicality, just interacting with the environment. Penelope makes an environment feel real by the way she interacts with it. She just would make the room suddenly feel real. And Edward, I mean, I just was so blown away by them. And I mean, I wasn't supposed to play any role in the film. It was not, I would never have dared put myself in the movie with those three. It really came out of, we were in the middle of the casting process, and the boys ganged up on me, and they called me and said, "We want you to play Angela." And I was terrified because I'm just really intimidated by them. I was like, I can't stand across from Edward Norton. I was just like, Penelope Cruz, like Seth, okay, we've acted together before, like, but, I mean, I just was so blown away that they had faith in me, and the four of us formed this little pod. I like to say that it was like we were wearing this like harness that wouldn't let anyone fall. So there was this sense of freedom of play, unself-consciousness, and that I think relaxed everyone to the point of really being able to just, you know, try new things. And it was, every day was a complete discovery. We really didn't know how the movie ended a week before we shot it.
Something else I love is the ambiguity that you leave us with, and that's a bold decision, especially, you know, I hate to say it, but for American audiences, we like a clean decision in a lot of ways. I think you were all, of course, incredibly erudite to love ambiguity, but
I mean, Seth and I disagree about the ending.
Let's talk about it.
Appropriate, but I think everyone projects their own experience onto it. I love this notion, which is very much Esther Perel, the idea that you can have a new relationship with the same person. But most importantly, it's that you are responsible for your own happiness, and your choices are your own, and you cannot blame your misery on your partner. And the idea that maybe they decide to kind of take responsibility for their happiness separately and set themselves free, or it's an agreement to start something new with each other. And people disagree on this in every screening, and I'm very curious how you guys felt. But I am so grateful that I had producers who embraced that ambiguity, because as we all know, I think this film, were it made in the large studio system, would have had a very different ending. So it was one of the joys of independent film, was being able to take this risk with the ending.
Yes, bravo.